You know how some women say, I don't think I have ADHD, I think I have ADD? Well, what if the story you've been told about ADD or attention deficit disorder isn't actually the full picture? Because what if the word ADD didn't mean what you think it does? And what if the way so many ADHD women use that term actually reveals something deeper, something about how we've been misunderstood for decades? In today's video, we're breaking down the difference between ADHD and ADD, why so many women still resonate with the term ADD, and the surprising nervous system layer I see in many of the ADHD women I work with. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just the terminology, but why your experience may not look anything like the stereotypical ADHD we grew up hearing about. Let's get into it. If you were growing up in the 80s, 90s, or even the early 2000s, you probably heard the term ADD way more than ADHD, especially for girls. And here's the interesting part: ADD became the label for the quiet, dreamy, internal version of ADHD, the one that didn't disrupt the classroom, the one that didn't get anyone in trouble. So, what is ADD actually? Clinically, ADD hasn't existed as a diagnosis since 1994. It's all ADHD now with different presentations. But emotionally, the meaning of the word stuck. It's kind of like an old job title that doesn't technically exist anymore, but everyone still uses it because that's what they grew up hearing or is something that resonated with them. The field updated the terminology, but the language people use didn't catch up. That's what happened with ADD. So if the word ADD feels familiar to you or more accurate, that makes total sense. It's part of our generational vocabulary. But for women, it goes even deeper. We weren't just using an outdated word, we were living an invisible version of ADHD. Billions of women weren't misdiagnosed, they were missed entirely. So, girls were taught to be quiet, helpful, sensitive, and responsible. So, when inattentive ADHD showed up as daydreaming, overwhelm, and emotional sensitivity that often gets directed inward, it didn't look disruptive, at least not on the outside. It looked like being a good kid. It looked like being mature for your age. I know I certainly got taught that I was like 8 going on 30. It looked like trying hard and still struggling alone. So doctors, teachers, even parents didn't see it as ADHD at all. They saw anxiety or depression or a good kid who is just a little overwhelmed. And the ADHD diagnosis was completely missed. It's like a swan gliding across a lake. On the surface, it's calm, quiet, and there's compliance. But underneath, there's internal chaos and constant paddling just to keep up. So your symptoms weren't smaller, they were quieter. But here's another layer I see again and again in ADHD women, and this part isn't talked about enough. This part isn't in the DSM, the diagnostic manual, but it's everywhere in real life. There's a trend I'm noticing in many ADHD women, especially those who resonate with the word ADHD. And I want to be really clear: this isn't true for everyone. I'm sharing it as a pattern I see, not as a diagnosis or a claim. So here's the pattern: a lot of women who say ADD aren't just inattentive, their focus drops when their nervous system gets overloaded. When life gets too loud, too stressful, too emotionally heavy, their attention collapses, and often their body does too, in a state of shutdown. Not because they're zoning out on purpose, but because their system is trying to protect them. The mind fogs, the slow thoughts, everything feels distant. And that gets labeled ADD. And I see this show up when their to do list or task feels too overwhelming. Their motivation drops, not because they're avoidant or unmotivated or don't want to do it, but because their internal load is too high for their brain to mobilize. What looks like I can't focus is often I'm overloaded. And when my coaching clients finally recognize freeze or shutdown, and they learn how to regulate their nervous system and actually practice those tools, their ability to focus, start, and follow through changes dramatically. I see them going from the couch into action. We see fewer spirals, fewer stalled out afternoons, and way fewer moments spent staring at the same email for 45 minutes. So, if you always resonated with the word ADD, it may be because inattentiveness and overwhelm show up together for you. Now, let's connect all this with how ADHD is actually diagnosed. So here's the twist: ADD was never its own category, but your presentation is. There are three ADHD presentations that used to be called subtypes. They're inattentive, hyperactive impulsive, and combined. Most women fall into the inattentive or combined categories, which often includes internal hyperactivity, racing thoughts, emotional sensitivity, internal restlessness, the constant mental load. And here's the accurate nuance: your experience of ADHD can shift depending on stress, hormones, trauma, burnout, responsibilities, and your nervous system, even though your official presentation stays the same. Which is why ADHD can feel completely different at 15, 28, 42, or 50. Understanding your presentation isn't about sticking yourself in a box, it's about knowing what kind of support actually serves you. So let's talk about your next steps. If this clicked for you, if you had a moment of, oh, this finally makes sense, go ahead and hit like so more ADHD women can find this video. And if you want weekly videos that reflect the real inner experience of ADHD women from an ADHD woman and not just the stereotypes, be sure to subscribe. Then tell me in the comments, did you grow up thinking you had ADD? Or does that term still feel more accurate for your experience? Your story helps other women feel seen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.